Grown food. Grown food. ASC got produce. ASC about to go cool.
Hey, welcome to Food Moves the World podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Powell from Appetite for Change. We are connecting with local community members who are creating positive change and asking them how do food impact their mood. Today we have LaTasha Powell here at the table. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is LaTasha Powell. I'm one of the Appetite for Change co-founders and current CEO and president and native Northsider.
So can you tell us a little about yourself or what brought you to the work that you do?
I was going through my own food journey, and it kind of started off back in 2004. And went to this butcher shop, and this butcher was just telling me the difference between when they butcher pork versus beef, and just telling me all of the outcome of what's happened between the two different meats, and I would sit up and spoil worms. So that brought me to my first movement of removing pork from my diet. And at that same time, I was joining a new faith belief. So I had just converted over to Seventh-day Adventist, where they was big on vegetarian, and that was something that was really kind of new to me and my family. So along the journey, fast forward to about 2008, I eventually stopped eating beef and finally got on that train of removing meat from my diet, period. And during that time span, I was doing a little research, not deep research, but just enough research to help me understand what was happening to the meat and how it was being processed. And I learned that there was a lot of chemicals that was being put on meat that in a large dose would kill the human, but they was putting it in such a small dose that it's undetected when we eat it. And so I just stopped eating meat. It became vegetarian. And at that time I had found some seed packages. I can't remember if I bought them or they was just sitting around my house. And just threw them in my yard and watched them grow. Then water them, then test my soil. I didn't do anything. And from that day forward, I said that I will commit to growing my own food. And just doing that whole movement, I really felt like as a black woman, as a black person, and overall as a black culture community, that we were so removed from natural way of growing, hunting, gathering, just collecting our own food source, that I wanted to make it my own mission to reach out to my community and let them know the importance of having ownership of your food. I really feel like if the food trucks or if the stores wish to close down in our community, how will we feed ourselves? And that stuck with me. How, as a black woman, as a black community, as a black culture, how will we feed ourselves? And so I met Princess and Michelle, which are the other two co-founders of Appetite for Change, and we always on our different path around food. And we came together and we talked to see what we wanted to focus on in North Minneapolis around food. And outbirth to that was our Community Cooks program, where we bring people together to cook, eat, and talk. And we set it up that way because I was so used to people coming into my community telling me what you need to do and how you need to do it and how you need to fix it. And that is something that was very uncomfortable to me, and I didn't want to project that out to others. So it's like, let's do these workshops. You know, we ain't gonna buy a meal for them. We're gonna actually have them cook it, get them in the kitchen to break down the barriers to cook together and provide a meal for each other, and then sit down and have a conversation and see what they wanted to see in North Minneapolis instead of telling them what they needed. And that's kind of got me to here. And kind of skipping around, but I think what was the biggest piece for me was the 2 years that I was a vegetarian. At that time, it wasn't that popular, at least in my community or my circle of people. And was getting a lot of criticism. Had family members and other people just kind of making jokes around my new lifestyle that I thought was important for my future and my health. And eventually, it kind of brought me to where I'm at now. I'm no longer vegetarian. I call myself, let me see, I don't know, so I'm just going to skip that part. But, I really just have ownership of my diet. I don't categorize or put myself into a box. But what I could tell you what I don't eat, you know what I'm saying? So I don't eat pork still to this day. I sometime when traveling will have beef every now and again in my diet. But my diet right now is kind of strictly poultry, fish, vegetables, and grains. And to kind of, I might be jumping ahead of myself, but I know this podcast is about how do food change your mood.
Yeah, that was a question I was going to ask. But I also know that you're talking about if the stores didn't have the food and the food trucks start coming in, how will people get it? And my question I had wanted to ask you, do you think that people in our culture stop growing food because they see it less than like as something from being traumatized from slavery or poor people stuff? Like, do you think that stereotype pulled Black people away from growing their food?
For me, I think it's a couple of different combinations. I think one, and just to go back a little bit, my great-grandfather was a farmer. He farmed both vegetables and cattle. So my grandmother and her siblings grew up on the farm. They had a smokehouse, and they helped butcher animals, and their father would sell the food into town. My grandparents and siblings didn't like that. But my grandmother, she did not like growing food or being part of the farm. And then we also have to take into consideration during that time, a lot of our farms was getting taken away, from us. And so I think with that generation that they just didn't want to be farmers. It was hard down there in the South, and growing food was not of interest. It wasn't making dividends, making enough money to sustain their family, and they wanted something different. And so they made that change to come and try to find a different way to provide for their families. And then we also have this narrative of, as a Black individual, of connecting food to slavery. And what I just share with the young people who come into our space at Appetite for Change is there's no correlation. Please pick the right word. But there's no connection to slavery in growing food. And once I get to talking to them, to explain it to them, the importance of growing food and having ownership of your food and seeing the start of the process of where the food starts from to where it ends, and taking them along the way with that journey with me, from either planting that seedling or direct sowing into the ground, to weeding, to watering, to cropping, to harvest time. Once they see that, it's beautiful. But when they come in, they be like, I ain't no slave. I'm not going out in that field. I ain't growing that food. And so it's really about education, walking that walk with them and helping them understand that this can be a supplement to you during the summertime for groceries and meal, and then you can put that money somewhere else. And also, it helps them understand that you know what's in this food. We use no GMOs. All of our food is organically grown. And yeah.
Do you see changes in individuals through the work that you do?
Yes. I witnessed a lot of changes through a lot of individuals that came through our program. We had individuals that came to swear up and down that, they would never grow their own food, they'll never be vegetarians, that they will never just be their natural self. They won't have their natural hair. And I realized that this doesn't happen overnight, not this type of change. This type of change happens over years. So I know that individuals who stayed with Appetite for Change for at least 5 years actually experienced some type of change.
Are you talking about me?
You're one of the individuals as well, but I can put some names out there, but I don't want to leave out no important. I don't want to name drop because I really don't want to miss important names that probably should also be a part of this. But there are several individuals that made that change, including myself. Like, it just has been a journey walking this food movement here in North Minneapolis.
So I know that y'all do something unique when it comes to connecting with community members. What are some steps other people who are trying to do impactful work, not being so aggressive, but when they're trying to be intentional but don't know how to?
I believe in meeting the individual where they at. So just to say a little bit more about that is, when you meet someone where they're at and walk that journey with you or with them, more than likely that they will change. So, for instance, you have someone who come in and they are a heavy fast food eater, and they don't like vegetables, and they just eat meat and just junk food. When you find out about them, you don't immediately attack them and tell them that that food is not good. You actually take time to be like, you know what, I see that you like that food, but can you at least add some vegetables to your plate? Or probably just add a salad.
The tomato comes on a burger.
A tomato comes on a burger. It does. But
So
that's one
lettuce.
vegetable in the lettuce. But let's do a salad. Let's just try to add a salad to this, and let's see how that happens. Or let's just add some type of leafy green vegetable to your diet or to your plate or what you eat. And then eventually it change. And then I would not call a food unhealthy or not good because it's offensive. Because sometimes people think that that food is good and that is healthy until they learn different. So I think it's really important, as I kind of stated in the beginning, that you meet them where they are. You just challenge the way that they have eaten in the past. Then you ask questions. Have anybody in your family passed away from a heart attack? Do anyone in your family have hypertension? Is anybody a diabetic? And more than likely, 9 out of 10, the individual would say yes. Then you share with them, do you know that that is a health-related disease? Well, some will say yes, some will say no. Then you explain to them how what they eat affects their body, and then you can see, oh, my grandmother passed away from a heart attack. Do you know that was because of her diet? And what did your grandmother eat? Or what did your parents eat? Or what did that auntie or whoever that relative is that have those diseases that I just named, how does their diet look? Then they get to thinking to see, like, I need to probably make some change.
Yeah, I know a lot of people don't even look at their food as the reason of their health. Like, they don't put the two together. Like, they'll just say it runs in our family, but not paying attention to the food that they're eating. Like, y'all eating the same thing that killed Uncle Johnny, and you're still eating it, and you're feeding it to your kids. So, where was I getting at with that? I guess showing them how to rethink their food. What is your thoughts? Or do you believe that food changes your mood depending on if you're hungry or not? Like, how do food plays a role in your daily activities?
Yes, food plays a role in your mood. I just walk you through one day of myself personally. I just like to try to relate personally to my experience in life when I'm talking to individuals, because it's more easier to help them relate. And I will get to that question, but I do just want to back it up to what we was just previously talking about when you kind of mentioned that people continue to eat the food knowing that how it affects family members before them. And part of that reason is education. Another part of that reason is trust. And another part of that reason is who is delivering that message. You know, when you go to the doctor, you hear them say, diet is a part of this. You need to exercise. You need to eat well. You need to diet. You be like, yeah, but I don't trust you. Now, me sitting right here, I share some similarities with you, you know, and I might be just judging. But as a black person, when I look at a black person, you know, and this is just the work that I learned also after you know, being here with Appetite for Change and serving the community for these number of years, is that when someone more than likely look like you more than likely trust them.
You trust their seasoning.
You trust their seasoning, if that's the word you want to use. But you kind of trust what they are delivering to you. And then when you work with them for a number of years, that relationship becomes better and you trust them more often. I said that to say that when I've talked to community members over the years and tried them to rethink their food and what they eat in their diet, I was able to look at them and be like, come on, I know you probably got somebody in your family that look like me. Or I'm sure we probably have similar backgrounds of where we came from. So I'm just telling you, as someone who's personally going through this journey, this food walk, that this is what has happened to me. But I could just tell you, during the time when I was a vegetarian, when I removed meat from my diet, I also removed junk food. I also removed pop. I removed everything I removed everything that shouldn't be in your diet, and pretty much ate vegetables and grains. And I slimmed up. I thinned up. I became the teenage Tasha again. And people couldn't imagine me as an adult that size. And I got all the jokes in the world. Oh, Tasha, you eating rabbit food. Tasha, stay away from them white people. Tasha, you trying to be a white girl. Tasha, you thin. Tasha, you ain't got no butt. Tasha, what's wrong with you? You need to eat some food. You need to put some meat on your body. You know what I'm saying? You need to eat. And after several years of that criticizing, of being criticized and the criticism, I was like, well, maybe I could just bring chicken back to my diet. Maybe it helped me get some more meat. Maybe I look more black instead of being more healthy. Because back then, when I identified with my culture, then with my health, because I was in the transition period. And so I brought chicken back. Chicken brought chips back. Chicken brought candy back. You know, it brought back the junk food. And then, you know, they was like, well, turkey is a little bit more leaner. Why don't you just eat turkey? And then I brought turkey back into my diet. And now I'm balancing, you know, the junk food. You know, everybody have like a go-to comfort food, and mine is chip. I eat a chip down. You know, in the quickness. But I just wanted to just kind of share that.
You should snatch your chips too.
And I will snatch it right off the tip of your fingers before you put it in your mouth. But the thing about here is the mood. When I was a vegetarian, my mood was great. I would not lie that it was better. Even back then, I didn't have the tools. What I mean by tools, the food. I didn't have the knowledge around the food that I should be eating that I have now. And my journey is to eventually get there again, but I haven't made it. But when I was there, my mood was better. I feel more energized. I was a lot younger. I was great. You know, first is now that I'm older, if I feel a craving, I try not to drink pop. I probably have about 12 pops a year. I know it doesn't seem real, but I might have about 12 pops a year, once a month, probably skip a month or something. But when I drink that pop or any processed food, sugar, anything, and it probably is coming with age, with wisdom, that I instantly can feel that sugar, you know, within my body. And I could instantly feel the change of where I was at before I had it to where I'm at after I've eaten it. And then let's say I'm working a long day. And there's a number of long days in my day where I go without eating. And by the time it gets to the afternoon, and if I haven't eaten all day, my mood changes. Everybody used the new word hangry. I become hangry. So when staff or family members ask a question of me, I respond with a certain tone. I respond with an upsetness because I haven't had no energy put into my body to help fuel me. And so my mood is altered and I'm a little upset. And my staff know Tasha must be hungry. She must haven't eaten all day. Now the kids or my siblings, they know, oh, Tasha must haven't eaten. You're absolutely correct. And I noticed that. And so now I just try to get ahead of it when I'm communicating and be like, I'm a little hangry because I haven't eaten all day. As soon as I eat something, I feel better. I feel a little relaxed. My mood change. I can answer questions without an attitude or having some anger behind it because I've eaten. And I'm not a big fast food eater or processed food eater, so I'm actually eating food, and it changed me. I can't sit up here and answer the question like if I eat junk food after I'm hungry, because I typically don't. I typically go for real whole food if I haven't eaten all day, which it helps balance me and it helps change my mood to better.
Yeah, good answer.
A younger me.
What would you tell a younger you?
I would tell a younger me is what elders said all the time. You're not going to be young forever. You're not going to feel this way forever. So when they was trying to tell you certain things, not just listen but do. Pay attention to what you eat. Eat good. Exercise. Walk. Drink lots of water. And work out daily. I would tell the younger me that get ahead of that while you're young. It pays off when you're older. So now I feel like right now I'm playing catch up. Even though my diet is pretty good, I'm also missing the other important piece, which is exercise. And so now mentally I done prepared myself to now exercise, and now things are coming together and making my system, which is my body, whole again. I can feel the changes within my walk. I can feel the changes within being able to hold my posture up a little better by starting to exercise. And I can feel, I could just feel the change overall with making sure that I eat good and exercise. And those are two things that we are taught from a very young age. But personally, me, I wasn't really taught that from my family, from the trusted source of an individual who I trusted to tell me that. I was told that from outside, from people who didn't look like me, and I couldn't trust their judgment as a young individual to do that. Now that there are more people that look like me, and probably back then it just wasn't part of my circle, that has been doing these things, and these things that have been eating and exercising. I'm happy now. I want to make sure that I teach my next generation to start early rather than later. And hopefully, my big motto is, you don't listen to what no one say, you watch what they do. So I like to try to model the behavior before I try to put it off on somebody else. I want to be able to answer questions. So they say, Tasha, what's in those greens? Tasha, why are you eating chard? You grew up on collards and this. I can be able to say where it have minerals and vitamins that you need to help you, that your body needs, very essential for you to eat it. When they say, Tasha, how many hours a week do you work out? Why are you working out? What has changed? I can be able to tell them that I have a lot of more energy. I can walk longer. I can hold my legs up longer. I can squat, whatever it is. I can do that better by making those changes. And this is how I did it, and you can too.
Cool. Well, yeah, that was a lot. First, I would want to thank you for being here on the podcast. But I have a final question to ask you. With the work that you do in the community in North Minneapolis and Minnesota, period, your legacy, what would you want people to remember you for?
I would want my legacy to know that I actually made change. And I'm getting emotional at this part because, like many people that looks like me, come from a background, and I'm just gonna go ahead and keep it real. Grew up in a project, grew up poor, and didn't even know it, because there was around people who experienced the similar things. And so when you're living in that moment, and when you're in that movie, you can't see the movie. You have to remove yourself out of the movie in order to know what's going on. If you want to make change, you have to work at it. Mm-hmm. Change is not going to happen by you thinking of it, by you planning it, if there's no action behind that change. I would like my legacy to know that I worked hard to get where I was at. I brought along people who wanted to walk this journey with me, and I'm never going to stop or give up on my people. I'm going to continue to walk this journey to the end of time. Right now I be looking like this individual is 73 years old, this individual is 69, and they're still fighting for food and peace and equity. And I told myself I didn't want to be that person. I want things to change. But now I'm getting closer there. I am going to be that person. Continuing to try to change and work until my last breath. So I need my legacy to know that I did this for you. Hopefully that this video will still be around so you can watch it. And get off your ass and don't think that things is going to come to you. You need to make sure that you work hard at it. And believe me, everything is going to come together.
Okay. Thank you. I guess that's a wrap. Food Moves the World podcast.
And so does emotions.
And emotions.
And I just want to thank you for having me here today, for inviting me to share my story. I'm always the kind of behind the scene person. Right. I don't like to be up front. I don't like people recognizing and knowing me. I'm kind of humble and at peace, and I just want to do the work. But sometimes you have to get outside of your comfort zone and step out and do something differently, and that's when the real work actually helps, and you start working on yourself.
Go food. ASC got produced. ASC about to go cool, we gon'